I'm Allie, welcome to my channel. Today we're talking about how to break the pattern of emotional overwhelm. What is the thing that you need to fundamentally grasp and master before your life can really change? Breaking the pattern of emotional overwhelm by overcoming the worst, scariest emotions. That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Ultimately, you stand to gain something extremely precious. It's not something that money can buy, and it's something that nobody can ever take away from you. What is that precious thing that you stand to gain? Let's start with some basic building blocks, and we'll get there towards the end of the video. If you clicked on this video, you probably have a memory of the most emotional, cringe, possibly even traumatic scenario that you've been in where your emotions took over and you didn't react or handle the situation in the best way. And maybe even years later, you look back on it with shame, cringe, or you just have blocking it out of your memory. This video is for you if you have such big, overwhelming emotions that you don't know how to face, and then when those emotions come up, they just absolutely cripple you and you're just spiraling. I don't want you to ever feel ashamed of how you feel. And I really believe that if you face these really overwhelming emotions, it's not your fault. And I know you probably have a really big, great heart, and I wanted to make this video because I want people like you, and I'm someone like that too, to stop suffering, to learn how to transmute our emotions so that we can live better lives and use our big hearts for good instead of inflicting pain on ourselves and falling into these emotional spirals. After you watch this video, hopefully you'll get some insight on how to make better decisions and better impacts on your life when you are in those times where you feel crippled by your emotions, or you feel like they're too much for you to handle. You feel like you're bursting out of your body. This video is going to teach you how to navigate those situations so that you can change your life for the better. I want to teach you how to break the pattern of emotional overwhelm so that you're able to navigate this complex world instead of hiding yourself away and becoming more and more introverted and just kind of existing in your own bubble. And there's so much urgency to this because emotional overwhelm is a pattern. It's not your fault, but it is a pattern that's happening to you. And if you don't break out of it or learn better skills to break the pattern, then it's just going to cause more anxiety each time you come across those big emotions, to the point that it literally impacts your body and starts to create a physical effect. I really don't want you to get stuck in these emotional patterns over and over again. There's so much more to your life than that. We're human, so we have tons of thoughts and tons of emotions all the time, every day. I don't know a single human who doesn't go through these challenges of life. Hit me up if you know one, because really that would be a miracle. What I do see is people who are able to manage their emotions and recognize the patterns in their life that their emotions are creating, and then be able to gracefully step out of those patterns so that they can build a life that they actually want, and the life that they actually deserve to live and are capable of living. So first, we're going to step back and see the emotional patterns that we are participating in, whether it's probably not by your own choosing. There could be a multitude of reasons why you're stuck in these patterns, but the goal today is to get you out of this pattern. Ultimately, from a very logical perspective, we can probably all see that the risk and reward of emotional overwhelm is just not worth it, right? The risks of being constantly emotionally overwhelmed and not knowing how to help yourself greatly exceeds the rewards. Let's minimize the risks for you and increase the rewards for you. I've experienced this myself. Negative emotions are addicting. Like, the human brain is wired towards negativity. It's why we're addicted to seeing bad news. It's why we get stuck in loops of anxiety. We're wired towards the negative, and that's a pattern that we need to break if we want to live a better, healthier, and more rounded, peaceful life. So your negative emotions are addictive, but like most addictive things that we don't have control over the addiction, it's probably not benefiting you. It's probably also not benefiting anyone else in your life. Like, really, are your friends, is your partner, is your family benefiting when you emotionally spiral and lash out or do stupid things? No, like, you're literally hurting yourself and you're hurting the people that care for you. So zooming a million levels out, are the risks of your emotional overwhelm worth it? What do you ultimately gain from it? Does it hurt you more than it helps you? And if we're on the same page and you agree, then let's get into the next step. Especially if you're not aware of your emotional world or that there's an emotional underlying world that exists within you, I'm so glad you clicked on this video, because wake up. Our emotions run a big part of the show that is our life. You could be ruining your own potential and not even knowing that. Negative emotions and constantly being stuck in those spirals puts you in a lower energy and attracts lower vibrational situations to you. Often many of the situations are dangerous. They can even be life-threatening. So I think it's a really important wake-up call to learn how to start breaking those patterns. So if we're all on the same page here, let's move on to the next step. What do you really stand to gain by overcoming and constantly being able to overcome your worst, scariest, most threatening emotions? So let's put you right into the scenario, okay? You're triggered, something in your external world happens, and you feel the emotions start to rise up. Maybe you're pretty emotionally aware, so you can name the emotions. You're even aware enough to know exactly what triggered the emotions, but you can't stop the emotions from coming up, and you're starting to feel the physical responses in your body. This is where the work begins. So step 1, I want you to hit pause. If you're in a busy environment, take yourself out. There's always a way you can hit pause in that situation and create a little bubble for yourself, right? So this is the moment, if we think about it as a video game or a movie, this is the moment where the monster enters the arena. So let's hit pause. By being able to hit pause, you're already like 1/3 of the way there. You're already aware of the pattern that's starting, and you're able to be conscious enough to hit pause and step out of it for even a second. Breaking the pattern like this will change your life, but we'll get to that later. For now, I just want you to remember that when the emotions come up, they're so overwhelming, you're freaking out. The only thing I want you to do is hit pause. See, the important thing about hitting pause at this moment is that the other risk of never being able to break free of our patterns of emotional overwhelm is that if you never break free of that emotional roller coaster, you'll live your entire life where the actions of other people or your external circumstances are running your life. And if you have a big heart and a good head on your shoulders, and the emotions are the thing that are getting in the way, I want you to live a better life than that. And I don't want you to suffer anymore. And so the first thing is to hit pause and realize what's happening. Realize what you're up against, and then realize the choices that you can make from this point on. So hit pause. Okay, once you've hit pause, here's the next step. I want you to understand your emotions with kindness, because I believe that uncomfortable emotions are the guide to your heart. But because we don't have the tools or the training to stay stable in that moment, we never can unlock that guide, because we can never get through our emotional overwhelm in that moment. So hit pause. Understand your emotions, and then understand it with kindness, because with lower vibrational emotions, we get a lot of lower emotional responses and judgments towards ourselves with that. If I feel this emotion of fear or confusion or anger, it must mean that some part of me is not good enough. It must mean that something's wrong. Our ego flares up and starts going crazy. But this is where I want you to use kindness. Use your heart. Remember that emotions are a guide to your heart, and the heart and the ego are separate. So by hitting pause, you're interrupting the pattern, and then instead of jumping straight into your ego, now's the time to bring in the loving kindness towards yourself, because that's the next step of breaking the pattern. And this is how you break out of emotional overwhelm and change the entire trajectory of your life. This is how you gain mastery over your emotions, but more on that later. The reason that overwhelming emotions becomes a pattern that we can't break is that it's cause and effect. So emotions might be the cause, the effect might be any negative action that you take that's part of this pattern that you're stuck in. So it might be starting a fight, it might be turning to a negative substance, it might be locking yourself away, it could be any negative response that you use to protect yourself. And again, remember, that's the ego that's protecting you. In your mode of pause, you need to reflect on what would the patterned, conditioned version of me naturally do in this situation. I want you to consciously not do that, but then I want you to go one step deeper and ask yourself, ask your heart, what is it in me that's really hurting right now? This emotion wants to be heard. What do I really need right now that this negative, overwhelming emotion is actually trying to guide me to? Obviously, the old patterns that I've done and just naturally reacted to before aren't working for me, because if they were working for me, I wouldn't be in this crappy situation again. So this time around, now that I hit pause and I'm already breaking the pattern, what's next? What's the thing that I really need that I haven't tried yet? And that is the next key to your emotional mastery. I want you to really ask your heart, what is it that I really need and want for myself in this moment? My emotions are guiding me here. How I reacted in the past is not working for me. What is the new thing I could try? Think outside the box here, get creative. We're all different, so we might have different next steps to take. But look, you've already broken the pattern and you've already put the next positive thing into place. Ask your heart, because your heart knows. Your heart has a wisdom that is just as strong as the wisdom of your mind and the wisdom of your body. So ask your heart. And we've almost answered the question, but there's just one more step. This is a practice. You're not going to master it right away, but each time you interrupt the pattern and then put a new heart-based action into place that's probably the opposite or a very different direction of however you were reacting before, every time you do that, you're building a new pattern and you're stepping more and more away from the emotional overwhelm of those previous versions of you. Ask your heart what it wants. And now we're one step closer to the answer of that question. What do you really gain when you master the worst, scariest, most overwhelming emotions? There might be some hiccups or learning curves on the way, but at this point, hopefully you are experiencing a different emotional outcome than before you watched this video, like maybe how you would have reacted, right? So now you're in this new emotional reaction. You might be feeling a little relieved, maybe a little anxious still, but something's a little bit different in your consciousness, right? Something's changed a bit, right? You might back away from a conflict. You might go take a walk. Just changing something in that emotional roller coaster that you usually find yourself on. Now I want you, once you're in a safer emotional space, once you're more grounded and calm, I want you to reflect. How was that experience for me? If I had not hit pause and broken the pattern and done whatever previous versions of me would have done, how might the outcome now look different? And chances are you're probably pretty proud of yourself if you've gotten to this step, because chances are you've created a better outcome and you've actually transmuted negative emotions into something better and something that feels more safe to your body and your mind and your heart. The heart, outside of all the scientific things that it's made of, is made out of love. And if you follow love, it'll bring you to a higher emotion. Reflecting is the fun part. It's the reward. It's like when you complete a fitness challenge, you buy yourself new workout clothes. It's the fun part. You've already broken the pattern. Even if you didn't do it perfectly, the next time the overwhelm comes up, there's another chance. The most important thing is just to pause and break the pattern. That's all you need to do to build a better life for the rest of your life. So let me ask again, what is it that we really stand to gain when we overcome and break these patterns of emotional overwhelm? Well, in my personal experience, beyond just avoiding the risks of always spiraling and being an emotional wreck, losing your friends, losing money, having to move, losing your job, it could be so many outcomes, putting yourself in physical harm's way, emotionally traumatizing yourself more, all of those risks that we obviously want to avoid. There is something so precious that we stand to gain. It's the self-esteem and the trust that you can navigate in this ever complex and increasingly confusing world. You built that skill inside of yourself. And that's something that money can't buy and nobody can take away from you. You decided as soon as you broke the pattern of emotional overwhelm, to step away from a battle that you could never have won, because we are human and we have emotions. We have dozens of them every day. And bad things and good things happen in life. Humans will always experience emotions. The faster that you can step off of your unconscious emotional hamster wheel, the faster and more beautifully you can self-actualize and go out there in the world and do the things that your big heart was meant to do in this world. You can stop your old patterns of suffering and begin life anew. And this is why I think it's just one of the most transformational skills that you could ever be aware of. The payoff, the reward of stepping off of those cycles of emotional overwhelm, it's limitless. We truly don't even know how mastering the skill can change our lives. So start today. And I hope this video helped you. I've been there. I know how hard it is, but it's so worth it. I'm here as a resource. I do consulting and calls if you want to talk and resonated with this video. I'm so glad if this video found you and you found it helpful. I want to find my own peace and shelter in the storm, and I want to be a pillar that helps empower and inspire others. If that resonates with you, I'm available for calls. I'm available to talk. So come find me. And as always, so much love, and I will see you next time.